You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There is a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of November 15th, 2024. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where, as promised, we're introducing a new semi-regular feature called Thursdays with Royko, or maybe Tuesdays with Royko, depending on which day we settle on. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Now, I know it's hard for us to believe, but there may be a few of you out there living in a forest or in a cave who have no idea who Mike Royko is. However, if you read Driftglass's blog, you absolutely know who Mike Royko is.
Yeah, if you know, you know.
Right. And to correct the situation that some of you might not know, here are the first few paragraphs from 20 Years Without the Legendary Mike Royko by Rick Kogan. Quote, during the week that Mike Royko lay fighting for his life in Northwestern Memorial Hospital in April 1997, the New York newspaper columnist Jimmy Breslin would call me at the Chicago Tribune every day. The short conversations went something like this. Hello? Breslin, he would growl. How's he doing? What's the latest? I would give him what little information I had, but when he called in the late afternoon of April 29th, I had to tell him that Mike had died at 3:30 p.m. God damn it, he said. Well, God damn it. And he hung up. That's very Breslin. Many people, however, felt the same way. Royko, a vital part of people's daily lives, was the best newspaper columnist this city had ever seen. He started writing a column at the Daily News in 1964, and when that paper folded in 1978, he moved to the Sun-Times and then to the Tribune in 1984 until his death. He wrote with a piercing wit and rugged honesty that reflected Chicago in all its two-fisted charm, I noted with my then-colleague Jerry Crimmins in Royko's obituary. His daily column was a fixture in the city's storied journalistic history, and his blunt observations about crooked politicians, mobsters, exasperating bureaucracy, and the odd twists of contemporary life reverberated across the nation. It was Royko's inimitable combination of street-smart reporting, punchy phrasing, and audacious humor that set his column apart, along with his remarkable durability in facing daily deadlines for more than 3 decades. Unquote.
And that last part about daily deadlines for decades kind of hits home with us OG liberal bloggers, since that's what we've been doing. Probably none of us write as well as Royko. On occasion, we rise to the occasion, but it's something we strive to do. We strive to be punchy, and we strive to be street smart, and we strive to tell the truth, which is all things Royko did every day. And I can think of no sort of greater tribute to him than sort of the sprawling liberal blogosphere that cropped up that really did try to be that way. And the fact that Jimmy Breslin was calling up, from New York, was calling Chicago to find out how Royko was doing. Mm-hmm. These were the guys that we grew up with. This was the style that we grew up with. That was Royko. And even though I came to his writing well past his boss days, which you must read if you want to understand politics, the days of writing about the mayor, Richard J. Daley, this is what Chicago always sounds like in my head. And this was how I thought journalists were supposed to write, or at least strive to write this way. Now, as you all know, the Democrats, our Democratic Party, has run 2 women for president in the last decade. And as you know, both these women, Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris, were objectively extremely well qualified for the job they were seeking. And both of them were so staggeringly better qualified for the job than the lying degenerate they ran against that words kind of fail me. And they both lost. And maybe that has something to do with the media and how the media talks about women in politics.
Mm-hmm.
So I present to you now a column entitled A Women's Lib View of Politics from the book Mike Royko, Slats Grobnik, and Some Other Friends. This column is from March 3rd, 1971 by Mike Royko. I'm reading it out of my yellowed, dog-eared copy of the book, so bear with me if the pages crumble in my hand while I do this.
Because the cover cracked. Well,
the cover cracked.
He had to take me to a doctor appointment. Everything's fine. But the cover cracked as you were opening it up.
Yeah, it's an old paperback, and it is a dear possession of mine. Anyway, this is a women's lib. Remember that phrase? View of politics.
Women's lib?
Yeah. Here's Mr. Royko. Women's lib has accused most institutions, including the news media, of being male chauvinist. The news media denies this, of course, and says it treats newsworthy men and women equally. If this is true, then by now we should have read stories about the two candidates for mayor that sound something like this. Grandfather in race for mayor, opposed by young single male. Richard J. Daley, a well-rounded but fashionably dressed grandfather, today launched his campaign for an unprecedented fifth term as mayor. In his first campaign speech, the 5'7" father of seven pointedly avoided mentioning his opponent, lean, dark-haired Richard Friedman. At a press conference, Daley outlined his reasons for running again and was then asked if he thought a man could be a father and a husband while pursuing a political career. He said, "Naturally, I'm a father and husband first, but my wife has always encouraged me to be a career man. I think people are beginning to realize that men are capable of doing something more than paneling the family room and changing the storm windows." Daley, who combs his hair straight back, wore a crisp blue suit with ankle-length trousers. He said he would campaign on his administration's record. Asked if he felt that being a man gave him a special appeal to the male vote, he said, "No, because I serve men and women regardless of their sex." Which is not something he said, but sure as hell sounded like the mayor. Meanwhile, Friedman, who is single, lashed out at Daley's record. At a press conference, was asked if he had any plans for marriage. "If the right girl comes along, yes," he said. When asked for his views on whether a political career and marriage mix, Friedman responded, "Definitely, I believe a man can be a husband as well as a politician if he has an understanding wife." Friedman, who has narrow hips and sinewy arms, disclosed that he often shines his own shoes and buys his clothes right off the rack. He said he owns 6 suits, and in response to questions from admiring female reporters, he said he favors Old Spice aftershave lotion. "To be honest," he said, with a sparkling smile, "during the campaign I sometimes forget to splash some on." Both campaigners have tried to avoid being stereotyped as the male candidate. Friedman, for instance, has refused to be photographed with his shirt off. And Daley has politely but firmly refused to flex his biceps for the camera. Friedman's campaign got a needed boost this week when he received a strong endorsement from Richard Ogilvie, the sandy-haired, plump governor of Illinois. Ogilvie, father of one, urged Chicago's Republicans to rally behind Friedman's candidacy, pointing out that the defeat of Daley would increase the chances for a 1972 victory for Richard Nixon, the wavy-haired president and father of two, and Spiro Agnew, the tall, dimple-cheeked, crinkly-eyed vice president. Friedman has also indicated that one of his targets will be P.J. Cullerton, the petite, white-haired Cook County assessor. I'm really having a hard time not laughing out loud reading this because it's so on point, and God, is it perfect. Anyway, continuing, the office of Cullerton, a great-grandfather of several, was the center of a scandal involving charges that favors were granted to politically favored real estate men, among them being Charles Swibel, the raven-haired, flashing-eyed owner of Marina City. But most observers agree that Friedman still has an uphill battle. If he is to overcome the machine and the vote-getting expertise of such daily backers as Thomas Keene, a well-preserved grandfather, and the statuesque Dan Rostenkowski and the pert and bouncy Tom Foran. Political observers note, however, that regardless of the outcome, Chicago will be led by a stylish dresser. Daley has several times been named one of Chicago's 10 best-dressed men, and Friedman enjoys the youthful look. As one male voter put it, No matter who wins, this race will make people realize that we men can do something besides mow lawns or cook on an outdoor grill. Unquote. Thus ended Mike Royko's column from a whole fucking long time ago about how
50
the media,
years. Yeah.
about the media covers women in politics.
So good.
It
so
was
good.
I was flipping through this book looking for something, no fair remembering stuff, actually something to just read to take me out of this century. And my eyes fell upon this column in which in 1971 Royko was saying,
71, yeah.
71.
Wow.
Please notice how the media treats women in politics, because if we treated people the same, this is how we'd be talking about politics. Not Daley's corruption, but his crisp ankle-length trousers and the flashing eyes and the pompadours and the way they smell, and making them justify running for office because they can balance a family and politics.
What about Lindsey Graham's childless state?
Oh, that would be a scandal.
Childless men running for Senate. I think it's something we ought to talk about.
It is. Childless men
on our bro podcast.
Yeah. But that's how, in a sense, how little things have changed. And why when we hear misogyny dismissed as something that cropped up during this campaign or the Hillary Clinton campaign because it was about the economy, it was about inflation, it was about trust, it was about whatever the fuck people are talking about. No, it's the misogyny and it's the racism in this last election. And if you don't see that, then you're being paid a lot of money not to see it.
Yep. We have a couple letters here. We haven't read letters in a long time, and we just want to read a couple of very short ones to set the tone for this episode. This is a letter from listener Beth. Quote, out here in Montana, the millions spent from outside evil forces, especially coal, gas, and real estate, was phenomenal. My Senator, John Tester, was portrayed as a far-left liberal taking Hollywood money and soft on immigration. One meme, so heinous, said, who could trust a man with only 3 fingers?
I have 2 fingers raised at the moment at that sentiment.
Yes, you do.
I do.
I have not, this is Beth continuing, I have not slept well since the 5th, worrying about my grown children and grandchildren's lives. I fear for my trans daughter and her daughter. Luckily, they live in Illinois. Not icky. We need to be kind and understanding to all and carry on, brave warriors.
Yep.
Unquote.
And this is a letter from listener Faye, who writes to tell us, hi, your podcast helped me get through my lymphoma chemo back in 2011. Well, thank you, Faye. That really does mean an awful lot to us. And I've been listening to you both ever since. Keep up the great work, chaps. By way of poor recompense, I thoroughly recommend you to the Blue Sky social media app. Thanks again. I'm not going to say anything else because I don't want to come off as spam, and you can do your own investigations. I will say that this Texas trans body has quit all her broligarch socials and urge you to do the same wherever you end up, because I suspect they will become rife with the big bro vibe. And I believe she is ultimately completely correct.
Yep.
That's an unquote. So this is by way of letting you know, A, we do get your letters and comments. B, we do read all of your letters and comments. And we take them very seriously, and we try to select a representative number whenever we read letters, because there's just way too many to read on the air. Unless you just want to do a letter show for like 17 hours.
You know something, Driftglass? Our letter shows do not get the traffic that the rest of our shows do.
No.
And I think it's because we're reading things that do resonate with other people.
Yeah.
But people tune in to listen, surprisingly, to us.
I know. It never failed. 854 episodes. 854 episodes. I'm still surprised people tune in to us at all.
Yeah, we love you guys. We just love you guys. You are really the center of our world here at DGBG.
And a voice from the past now. Someone who hasn't been on this podcast for a long time. He hasn't been
on this podcast for a long time, but we got some feedback from Junior Dude.
Friend of the pod,
Junior Dude, who is living out in Washington State. And so I thought that he had he doesn't listen to our show every week, but he did listen to our post. He's a Hal Sparks fan.
Yeah.
But he did listen to our show last week, and he called me to tell me that we were wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, we have to get you on the show." So I recorded a little. This is just a few minutes of our conversation, and
I may just say how sharper than a serpent's tooth is an ungrateful
he's amazing.
child.
All right,
He's awesome.
Here's Junior. Here's my discussion with Junior Dude. So I'm talking right now with Junior Dude, and you don't always listen to our podcast, is that right? Not all the time.
Not all the time.
Yeah, but you did last week.
I do when I can.
Yeah, and you did last week in our post-election show. And you had some disagreements with us on one particular area. Mm-hmm. What was that?
It's your notion that the Democrats are never going to elect another woman.
Or nominate another woman.
Nominate another woman.
Yeah, and why do you think that's not true?
Because I still believe in the Democratic Party as being a party of diversity instead of just a Republican light party.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's interesting. So, in other words, maybe the shock of the election results made us think for a while that maybe we need to move more towards just nominating white men to get those voters back, which is a mistake. You think that's a mistake?
I think that's the wrong lesson to take away.
Okay.
I think the lesson, if there is going to be a move towards the center, I think it should be in nominating Democrats from swing states and not from California and New York.
Okay. Like Hillary Clinton and Kamala
Harris.
Okay. So and Tim Walz didn't help enough. Let's face it. Right.
No.
Right.
Because the vice president doesn't draw nearly the attention that the top of the ticket does. It's always about the top of the ticket.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I'm very grateful that you had that perspective because I've been kind of depressed about it, and I'm sure you have too. This is kind of ridiculous that Trump has got reelected. But
I also think you need the right woman and the right circumstance. Uh-huh. And what I mean by the right woman is a woman from a swing or red state. Mm-hmm. And the right circumstance is not running when there's an incumbent Democrat in the White House.
Oh, yeah. You talked about that with me earlier this week, too, about how there is almost always a throw the bastards out kind of. We need change. I mean, that was definitely the case in 2008 with Obama.
I very much doubt Obama would have been elected if it weren't for George Bush.
Yeah, in the first place. And the economic crash that happened. Yeah. So, how are you handling this going forward? What are your plans for the next 4 years?
My plans for the next 4 years is to read up on the news, because information is power. Mm-hmm. And so just try to read up on the news, know what's going on both nationally and locally. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the conviction that I have that 49 to 51% of the American public is just brainwashed by Fox News all the time? Is there anything we can do about that?
Well, I think that's going to be more of a long-term thing. Mm-hmm. I think right now, in the short term, what's going to happen is there's going to be a recession. Hopefully it's mild, but we'll see about that. And, it just, no matter how no matter how attached to Fox News or these other right-wing outlets some people are, it eventually there is going to be something that is just so terrible and so shocking that it can loosen the grip a little bit. I really do believe that. And again, it's a throw the bastards out mentality.
Oh,
and that exists on both ends of the political spectrum.
Yeah. There are some people who just will always vote to be ornery. Flip the tables, right? Always want to flip the tables. Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have. Is there anything else you want to add and say to our podcast listeners?
I'd say don't give up. Really, don't give up. Like, because this is our home. There is no home B. This is it.
Yeah.
And you got to stand up and do what's right.
Yep. He's single, ladies. I'm just saying. Thank you, Junior Dude. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
And now we have to make one of those awkward transitions from the sublime to the ridiculous. So bear with us. Little rough riding ahead. It was with great anticipation. I cracked open Jennifer Rubin's column in a bootlegged copy of the Washington Post that some kind soul sent along. Bless your heart, whoever you are out there. The headline did not fill me with hope. The headline is, quote, Democrats need to reclaim reality from the right-wing disinformation machine. Disinformation has taken hold over democracy, unquote. Okay, I thought, okay, fine. At least we're on the same page. We both agree that's a problem. But then good old Jen proceeded to fill up her column with all the shit that we already know and have already been saying and writing about and screaming about for 20 fucking years. And I found myself reading a version of what I used to call in the many, many, many management meetings I used to attend in a previous life, the thing I call all quarterback, no wide receivers school of leadership. And that is when you have your senior management sitting around a big old conference table with catered food coming in, and there's problems out there. There's stuff to be done, stuff needs doing. And this is after the ritual complaining about the parking situation and the coffee break room, which happens in every fucking meeting since the beginning of time. And nothing ever happens. It's just a place to complain. But generally speaking, people sort of talk about problems that somebody ought to do something about. You know, there's accomplishments we want to accomplish. There are end products we would like to achieve. And everybody tries to outbid each other on how awesome their wish list is. And they come up with all the stuff that somebody should be doing. Somebody should really take a look at this. Somebody really needs to increase output by 13%. And then the meeting adjourns, and everyone except me, because I'm sitting there shaking my head going, I can't believe these people. Everyone adjourns thinking someone's going to take care of this. And then they reconvene a week later or 2 weeks later and wonder, what was it we were talking about last time? Oh, yeah, that thing. What's the progress? And at that point, everyone, even though we're all seated, managed to take one step back because nobody wants to answer the question, what has become of all these wish list things we've done? And the answer is nothing, because it didn't get delegated to anyone. It wasn't funded by anyone. It wasn't set as a priority. It was just, it would be sure nice if a whole bunch of shit I really want done gets done. And this happened all the time. And it happened because nobody wanted to take responsibility for setting priorities and for funding things. You know, saying that this thing is more important than that thing, so we're going to pay for this thing and not that thing. They just wanted to sort of bitch about the general state of the world and assume somebody's going to take care of it, even though this is the senior management. And that's what I saw in the Jennifer Rubin column, coming right down Fifth Avenue, straight down Michigan Avenue, with her prescription for what we should be doing about this terrible disinformation plague.
So here is Jennifer Rubin, and may I remind you, she is writing in the Washington Post this week.
Yeah.
Quote, whether you believe that Americans embraced President-elect Donald Trump's misogynistic, racist, and bullying persona because they misunderstood what he stood for, or because they liked what he stood for, or because they believed falsely that the economy was in a recession, or because they could not afford to buy their own home, or because of some combination of all of these, we cannot ignore the success of the right-wing media's disinformation network in shaping how millions of Americans view the country. Unquote.
Yes.
It's as if she just discovered this.
Like, just land ho. There's an island over there. We should go there and explore that. Yeah.
And then Jennifer Rubin quotes Will Bunch of the Philadelphia Inquirer, and this is him speaking. Quote, the things that pundits have been talking about since Tuesday all factored into this election, but nothing mattered more than this. Donald Trump was returned to power by the most badly informed electorate in modern American history. unquote.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Jen? We know this. We know this, right? This is like SNL, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know this. This is known. We get it. We, too, have been putting this succinctly and angrily and despairingly and TLDRingly on our blogs and podcasts and Twitters and TikToks and YouTube and screaming it across the table at family gatherings. And I can attest to that. We've been saying it's Fox for decades. So quit telling us stuff we already know. What about solutions, Jennifer Rubin? She doesn't have any solutions. Instead, Ms. Rubin gives us many examples of where not to look for solutions. And to her credit, she named her own paper and her own profession as part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, the answer to combating the avalanche of disinformation, sadly, does not reside primarily in legacy media, which millions upon millions of Americans never see or read. It certainly does not reside in outlets that offered false equivalents, failed to oppose a fascist candidate.
Wow.
Talking about the Washington Post, all right.
It's coming from inside the house, Jennifer.
Yeah. Or ignored voters' lack of interest in democracy and underlying resentment over the loss of white power, unquote.
Wow. Okay. So again, we're all on the same page. We're all in this together. Welcome to the chat, Jennifer. That's great. But enough of this fucking foreplay. All right. How do we fix this problem?
You know, I could fire you.
Great. There's some portfolios in Joan's office. Maybe you could find somebody tonight.
Why are you doing this to me?
Because you're being very demanding for someone who has no other choice. Dazzle me.
Fine. How much you want?
How much you got?
$400.
Give me all of it.
Jesus. It better be good.
Do you want me to take your watch?
So, okay, Jen, dazzle me. So what does big-time media professional Jennifer Rubin offer as a solution? A solution to this, to the 23 paragraphs of problems that we all fucking well know that she's laid out in advance. And it comes down to basically just 2 sentences. Quote, rather, the solution lies largely in fostering new forms of media to counterattack the gusher of right-wing disinformation that fills the brains and shapes the attitudes of many Americans, unquote. Notice the passive voice. And second sentence, quote, a new crop of relevant opinion makers, local media, and investigative journalists is required to get basic information to voters and combat the right-wing conspiracy-laden hysteria, unquote.
Is required?
Is required. More passive sentence.
More passive. What is this with the passive voice? And does she have an editor at the Washington Post? No, she does not.
None of them do.
Nope.
So
I will tell you, if someone at Crooks and Liars brought this to me and said, we're going to put this up at the site, I would say, number one, no, we're not. Because the other staff people would laugh so hard.
Yes.
At anyone at Crooks and Liars saying, maybe the problem is Fox News and right-wing media.
You think so? And so
you're gonna write that and take up space that could have a column with my byline on it? I don't think so.
Yeah, the
other part is I would be editing this and I'd see that passive voice and I'd say, write it again.
And I got to say, in all the writing workshops I've conducted, all the story workshops I've conducted, same thing.
Yeah.
No. I see what you're doing there. I see what you're doing. You're trying not to name names. You're trying not to assign. You're trying not to delegate this wish list to a particular person or institution or group. You just said this should manifest itself and then everything will be fine.
So what we need is some form of liberal media, Driftglass?
Yeah, that's what I searched through here, the entire article, and apparently we need some form of liberal media.
Sir, it's quite possible this asteroid is not entirely stable.
Not entirely stable. Oh, I'm glad you're here to tell us these things. Chewie, take the professor in the back and plug him into the hyperdrive.
Yeah, it's time to take Jennifer Rubin in the back and plug her into the hyperdrive, I think. Hyperdrive. And I got to say, if I had $1 for every time over the last 20 years that someone on the left, all of us on the left, have begged for a liberal media, I would have enough money to start a liberal media.
Yep.
This is so fucking late to the party, and it's so insulting. It's so intellectually dishonest. Because what you're saying is your paper fails this country catastrophically. And you have all the money. Jeff Bezos has all the fucking money in the universe. He could fund exactly what you're talking about tomorrow. And it would cost him 5% of his net wealth. And he's not going to do it. Now, why is he not going to do it, Jen? Well, because we've tried this already. This was called the blogosphere. Yeah. It became the podcast-osphere. We've been trying this for a very long time. And what happens when this happens? Well, what happens
is we take the risk, right?
Right.
Citizen journalists take the risk. They don't get paid. They live on peanut butter sandwiches, and they take the risk of trying a new technology to reach out to the public.
Right.
And when they succeed, then the moneyed interests jump in and start monetizing it and take all the oxygen out of that technology.
Absolutely.
And start policing what everyone else can say or where they can say it.
The tone police come in. And then, of course, the other half of that equation is once the blogs start making people in power uncomfortable, you get people like Joe Scarborough, our ally, our good friend Joe Scarborough, calling out bloggers as those Cheetos-stained assholes in their mom's basement.
Right, while he's defending the Iraq war.
Right.
Yeah.
So believe me, Jen, we've done it. We've done it a dozen different ways with a dozen different types of approaches. And the reason it always fails is because of your profession. Your profession does not want us at the table.
Does not want competition at the table,
period. And we talked about on last episode, the negative space.
Yeah.
Go into any panel, any editorial room, any op-ed page, any place where people are talking, professional, respected, very serious people are talking, and there's always a missing voice. There's always a chair that's not filled, and it's the people that you're talking about, Jen. The people who should be at the table are the ones who are absolutely not allowed anywhere near the table. And if you're saying to me that we out here living out of our tip jars, busking for money, asking for nickels and dimes to pay our bills, need to manifest a liberal media out of nothing.
Right.
Where we can pay people.
When we have to do a GoFundMe to pay for your eye doctor. I mean, seriously.
But where we can pay people salaries, we can salary these reporters, we can basically recreate the entire media infrastructure that has collapsed over the last 20 years and target them correctly this time. You're insane. Again.
Well, this is what I've said throughout social media this week, which is, Ellie Mastal saying we need our own Joe Rogan. No, we don't. We have lots of talent.
We do. We really do.
We need Koch brothers, Uihleins,
money,
and that's what we need. And someone who's willing to throw money decade after decade after decade as a lost leader to their own philosophy.
Right. That's right.
That is the investment that they are making.
The patient capital. We need
the patient capital of fascism.
And
absolutely.
Believe me, we've asked everyone we know. We've knocked on every door, and we've done. I gotta say, you and me, and all the people we know and care about, all the Bradcasts and the Hal Sparks, all those people have done the very best we know how to do. We have exhausted ourselves trying to find any way to change the trajectory, and the people in charge don't want to change it. We've talked last week about there being two cults in this country. There's the MAGA cult and there's the both sides do it cult.
Yep.
And I will tell you right now, the stronger of the two, the more enduring of the two is the both sides do it cult. Yeah. Because they've been around for decades. They've been shaping the narrative away from the truth and towards
Reagan,
blaming both sides.
Through Nixon, all of it. Yeah.
And they're not giving up. And when I looked over at the Atlantic today, because a friend of mine said, you saw who was on the cover of the Atlantic today, right? It's David Brooks.
Yeah.
Blaming the Ivy League for breaking America.
Yeah,
I'm not going to read it.
And so then he gets invited on Tim Miller.
Yeah. Oh,
to
this
talk
is
about
how
his article in the Atlantic.
This is how I know I'm being trolled personally.
Yes.
I'm not going to listen to this. I'm not going to read. At some
point, I told
you
can't listen to it until we're done with our show.
No, because it's aneurysm bait. They're just trying to kill me at this point. It's
and Mike Royko. I'm serious.
Royko's gone, and I'm not feeling so good. Today, I just glanced over it. It's Tim Miller interviewing David Brooks and Rick Wilson. about.
And you burst out laughing when you saw that.
Yes,
I was like,
wow.
"What? Somebody sent you a funny meme?" No,
it's
Tim Miller
I think,
having David Brooks and
I think New York Times PitchBot has read The Secret
Rick
and
is manifesting.
Manifested. Okay, who are the 3 least qualified human beings on the planet? Who are the 3 least qualified white guys, privileged white guys on the planet to have any fucking opinion about any of this? The most useless people imaginable. Oh, I know. We'll get Tim Miller to bring in Rick Wilson, who by the way, Lincoln Project didn't win the election. Don't know if you noticed that.
How'd that happen?
And they had nothing to do with Biden winning.
As we said in last Tuesday's episode, quoting someone else, but everything Rick Wilson touches dies.
And David Brooks.
Oh,
because
God.
that's you have your vision of hell, Blue Gal. That's my vision of hell.
Yeah. But look, Driftglass, I've come up with a plan.
Oh, you got a plan. I love a plan.
You and I talked about this at lunch, I think yesterday. Start a YouTube live stream with lots of those shorts videos.
Yeah.
Because those grab the eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be strippers reading Tom Hartman columns.
I love this idea. I totally love this idea.
The only problem with that is YouTube will tell us that we can't monetize that channel due to copyrighted content from Disney and Paramount Plus.
Yeah. We found that out, didn't we?
We did.
If you play 3 bars from Casablanca on your... Nope.
That's it. You can't monetize that video.
Nope. Sorry. But you know what? Maybe Disney and Paramount Plus would fund a liberal media. What do you think, Blue Gal? Because they have a trillion zillion...
Now you're trying to make my belly ache with laughing.
Yeah.
Hey, Driftglass, let's do a news roundup.
Yeah.
And by the way, we do love you. I know these times are hard.
Yeah.
And we are laughing so that we don't cry.
Yeah.
But we love you. And, this is tough. We have we have trans friends. We have gay friends. We have people in our families and in our lives that we love who are vulnerable.
Very vulnerable, yes.
And, I give regularly to Donors Choose to classrooms that are special needs. And I always say to the teachers, this is to pay it forward to the public teachers who made my son's success possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when he was 3, he said, no, and I want Cheerios. And we didn't know if he was going to say anything else.
And now we can't shut him up.
Now he's an expert on geography, and he drove across the country a couple times, and
he has well-formulated, well-articulated political opinions, and he dares to disagree with us.
First of all, he had a mother that never, ever, ever gave up, and I'm still not. I'm still that way, and you guys, know that. That's why you're listening to this podcast. I don't give up. I believe that we can make a difference, and we are making a difference, and I'm not giving up now. Because this is a clown car we're facing right now. This is an utter... This is absurd. This is a Blake Edwards movie from 1967 that we're watching. Mm-hmm. The number of ridiculously stupid celebrities being brought on. TV stupidest news people. Mm-hmm. And stupidest newsmakers being brought on to run departments.
Yeah, with hundreds of thousands of people.
And the only duty they're going to have, apart from destroying the institution that they're put in charge of, will be to sit in the cabinet room and fellate Donald Trump.
Yeah. Yep. And that'll all be live on TV.
What could possibly go wrong when you have celebrities with ego and ambition tripping over one another to please a person whose brain is melting before us?
Yep.
It's Dickensian. It is.
It's dystopian.
Yeah. It's dystopian, and it is just absurd.
If I may, it's Dickensian. How's that?
Dickensian. There you go.
There you go. Trademark that.
That will be on the cover of Time magazine in 3 years. All right. All right, let's do a news roundup. The cornfield resistance persists.
Yes.
Republicans will keep control of the House of Representatives, which may be a blessing because now it's all their fault. Mm-hmm. They handed Trump unified control of the government for, 2 more years. Democrats will have virtually no check on Trump as a result. In the Senate, Republicans control 53 seats, which is short of the 60-vote threshold required to defeat a filibuster.
Donald Trump never submitted a legally required ethics pledge, stating that he avoid conflicts of interest and other ethical concerns once back in office. I believe he wiped his ass with that form, and it's in the same bathroom where all the stolen documents are.
Yeah.
Trump's transition team was required to submit that ethics plan by October 1st, according to the Presidential Transition Act. It's the law. As of now, Trump has made zero commitment to avoiding conflicts of interest during his presidency, and he is in violation of the law, which is adorable.
Yeah,
Just
the Republican
adorable.
House isn't going to impeach him for that.
No one's gonna hold him anything.
Yeah. Senate Republicans chose Senator John Thune, who Driftglass has always said is bilaterally symmetrical.
Yes, he is very symmetrical.
He's very symmetrical, and he's also very anti-Social Security, so be watching for that. House Republicans unanimously nominated Speaker Mike Johnson to lead their conference again when the new Congress convenes in January. So we are going to have 19 ballots this time around.
Not yet, but wait till the first firecracker goes off.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
These are panicked animals, terrified of making any move in any direction. This is a happy story. This is from the New Republic. Quote, Alex Jones is having a total meltdown over the Onion buying InfoWars, which is not an Onion headline. It's a real headline in a real news place. Yep. And, quote, this is absolutely the best way this could have ended. The far-right conspiracy network was auctioned off to the satirical outlet The Onion, ending what was arguably Jones's most successful endeavor while marking the beginning of his descent into irrelevancy. During a breathless rant on Steve Bannon's War Room for the InfoWars studio, Jones called the news of The Onion's acquisition ridiculous, referring to the U.S. regulators as imperial troops and insisting that the auction rules had been changed at the last minute by, say it with me now, the deep state. They're in the building. They told the office manager, and they're calling me right now, that they could have ordered the IT providers to cut all the IT off to shut off InfoWars, Jones said. I could get on a live camera right now and show you the U.S. trustee and the auctioneer, unquote. That hurt my throat. I'm not going to do that again.
Don't do that anymore.
InfoWars was property of Jones's victims, primarily the Sandy Hook parents, and they could sell their private property to anyone they damn well chose. And they gave the Onion a discount because they knew the Onion would not hire Jones again to continue his hateful bullshit.
Yep. And that was the plot, was to get Roger Stone to buy it and just say, okay, here you go, Alex. I'm hiring you to run InfoWars for me.
Nope. Although I do hope Hal Sparks gets the desk. I really do hope.
Yeah, I really do
he gets the desk.
Yeah. Trump named Fox News host Pete Hegseth, who is an idiot, by the way.
Yes, he is.
His choice for Secretary of Defense and John Ratcliffe to lead the CIA. Trump also tapped Tulsi Gabbard to serve as the Director of National Intelligence. Gabbard has been accused of spreading actual Russian propaganda, being a Russian asset, and condemned as a traitor by both Republicans and Democrats. Both sides.
Mm-hmm.
Hegseth has called the U.S. military ineffective, woke, mused about the firing the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and said allowing women to serve in combat has made the military less lethal. He also once argued against hand washing and said he hasn't washed his hands in 10 years. So he's got that going for him. And patent medicine lunatic RFK Jr. is going to head up the Health and Human Services Department. We are not making that up.
No, so get your shots now while they're still unbleached. This is from Politico. Even Republicans are stunned by Trump's Gaetz cabinet pick. Absolute gut punch. Washington insiders are less certain than ever that the second term of the Trump administration will be more professionalized than the first. I don't know how they write this stuff without throwing it up in their desk.
Need a barf bag to read it, for gosh sakes.
And there's an awful lot of that, there's a whole lot of normalizing going on right now about professionalizing, and maybe this isn't so bad. Maybe it's a blessing. Maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe this, maybe that. No, it's all bad. And people who are saying that because they're being paid to say that, not because it's true.
They're being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars. Exactly. Yep. All right, so here's a pop quiz. Notes down, pencils up. What is the name of the person who just today described Matt Gaetz as follows? And I'm just going to read it. Mm-hmm. Quote, I realize that we are occasionally given to hyperbole about the untoward nature of politicians. But let me be clear. Matt Gaetz is a sex-trafficking, drug-addicted piece of shit. He is abhorrent. His eyes are permanently rimmed with the red rings of chemical boosters. In person, he smells like overexposed Axe body spray and stale Astroglide. The fact that he boasted on the floor to multiple colleagues in the House of Representatives his methods of crushing Viagra and high-test Red Bull to maintain his erection through his orgiastic evenings is perhaps the least offensive of his many crimes against womanhood and Christian faith. The man has less principles than your average fentanyl-addicted hobo. He likes them underage, and he's not ashamed about it. Unquote.
So who was that blue gal?
Some liberal blogger, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, very shrill. Very, very shrill. Yeah. You got to really tone. You got to watch your tone there, liberals, because the tone is more important than the substance.
Except it's not a liberal Driftglass.
No?
It's the Federalists' own in-house MAGA douchebag Ben Dominic. Mr. Meghan McCain wrote that.
Really?
Yes.
I read this and I take a little bit of solace in that I'm rooting for injuries, blue gal. Rooting for injuries.
He's rooting for injury.
Scott Lemieux points out that Trump's national security advisor pick, Mike Waltz, was a counterterrorism advisor to Dick Cheney and thought the U.S. should stay in Afghanistan forever. In 2017, he suggested that the war be multi-generational. People who ostensibly opposed endless war and gave Biden zero credit for Afghanistan and grounding the drones are getting exactly the Trump cabinet they deserve.
Yep. Now, Melania Trump did not show up for tea with Jill Biden this week. She's not going to show up for a whole lot of things because, and this is where I get up on my high horse toward the media. Donald and Melania are separated.
Yeah.
Because he not only cheated on her with a porn star, he paid off the porn star with money that should be Melania's.
Yeah.
And Melania likes money.
She does. She likes money.
So
and she's not getting paid to have tea with some old lady.
No, in the White House, which she hates. She hates the White House.
It doesn't matter that that's tradition or whatever. No, not doing it.
No, she's not going.
No.
And I will tell you, they were having such a horrible fight on Inauguration Day.
Who?
Because Melania and Donald in 2017 he was scowling at her and she was frowning and had her head down and they were clearly having a huge fight. And, then she went off because her son was in school in New York and she was going to live in New York.
Sure.
While her son was finishing up the semester. No, she was renegotiating her prenup with her lawyers. So I don't want to hear any crap about privacy for them either.
No.
Fuck that.
No. Well, and it's all bad. There is no corner. There's no corner of that universe into which you can shine a light and see anything good. They're all awful people. They're all horrible, awful people.
We're talking about all the awful people he's appointing to the cabinet. Yep. He's going to have rotating fake wives fighting each other. Yeah. And they're all terrible people, too.
They're all terrible people. You know who's not a terrible person? Stephen King.
Stephen King.
You know him, you love him, you've read all his books. Don't watch his movies so much. They're not that great. Some of them are. But he got kicked off of Twitter X this last week for calling free speech absolutist Elon Musk the first lady. Like a boss.
That's
way to go,
pretty
Steve.
Mild compared to some of the things I've heard Elon Musk called this week.
Well, and, free speech absolutist Elon Musk
right.
can't
He's
stand
so free speech. No, he just wants free speech for Nazis. That's what he wants.
Yeah, and he's getting it. He's got his own site now.
Yeah, he bought it. J.D. Vance, I don't know if you know him. He's apparently going to be vice president, although, there's a battle for the second spot in the Trump White House anyway. He said U.S. could drop support for NATO if Europe tries to regulate Elon Musk.
Yeah.
So there's some extortion for you.
Yeah. Get ready for a lot more of that.
Yeah.
And get ready for it to be the iceberg. You'll only see a tenth of it above the surface. There's going to be a whole lot more. Whole countries are going to be extorted to make Donald Trump richer.
Yep.
Donald Trump's demanded that the next Senate Republican leader allow him to make appointments to his administration and the courts without Senate approval, like a dictator.
Yep, like a dictator.
Mm-hmm.
This next line, I just kind of shake my head.
Yeah.
Trump, in a call with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, handed the phone to Elon Musk.
Yeah. It's for you, Elon. Now, look who's suddenly interested in politics again. It's the Washington Post. This is from Raw's story, November 12th, 2024. Just the headline, because it says it all. Quote, fight! Washington Post delivers urgent plea to Republican Senate. Unquote. Please save us from the guy that we, abandoned everyone to and decided not to take a position on. And congratulated once he won. Once they come for you, that's when you start sending up the, will someone please bail me out? Will someone help me? No.
No.
You bought it. You broke it.
Yep. And all their emails about now is the time to sign up for the Washington Post again because we're really relevant now.
Yeah.
Nope.
For $1 a year, please come back.
No.
Nope. All done.
This is from theologian Diana Butler Bass, and I want to put this on a T-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, I don't want to hear one more damn word about your purple church. Red and blue together, working together for Christ, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hear about your faithful church, caring for outcasts, the brokenhearted, the fearful, those living in shadows, the mourning, the terrified, the dispossessed.
Uh-huh.
Unquote. Who are you serving? As a servant of Christ, who are you serving?
Yeah. Yep.
Again, big hugs, everybody. Big hugs.
Hang in there.
Hang in there. Go outside if you can.
Yeah. Yep.
Although, Driftglass, I got to tell you, this time of year in the Midwest, I go out to the car and turn on the car, and it's cold out and it's blasting cold air because the last time we were in the car, it was 70 degrees.
Yeah. Well,
And then I turn the heat on, and the next time I get in the car, it's 70 degrees and the heat's blasting. It just
keep your eyes on the trees and the colors that they are.
It's very pretty. We're past peak now, but it's very pretty, and we are looking forward to Thanksgiving.
We are. Really and truly. We're having we're really looking forward to
Thanksgiving.
Because there won't be any assholes there screaming about MAGA victories or anything like that.
Nope.
This just be
Nope. We're gonna have a couple college kids home making a vegan meal.
Yeah.
Each week we post to our Facebook page and website an internet kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's internet kitty is Lady Fluff. Lady Fluff is a Maine coon cat who likes to flaunt her ginger paw. She has some orange kitty in her heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And she's thoroughly enjoying her moment in the pro-left sun. Yes, she eats freshly poured cat food and enjoys it, but give her canned cat food with gravy too, please.
As long as it's freshly poured.
Right, as long as it's freshly poured. Mm-hmm. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store direct, your princess, Lady Fluff, whichever royalty you have in your house, will sit on the kitchen floor and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Lady Fluff at our Facebook page or website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your internet kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We do absolutely love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And as the temperature falls here and we become more enwrapped in wool and mittened up with caps on our head and breath in front of us that's freezing and falling to the ground, please don't forget our gourmet coffee guidelines, our hot gourmet, or hot cider, even. Ooh. Hot cider. I could go for hot cider right now. If you can afford to buy an espresso-based beverage or hot cider for yourself, buy one for us. This isn't charity. This is our job. If you can spare $5 a month or more, please spare $5 a month or more at patreon.com/proleftpod. Please share our show on social media. And if you love this podcast, please get someone else to listen to. And thank you so very much for doing that.
Hey, Dripglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, in keeping with the spirit of Exodus leaving Twitter, the Internet Kitties are finding Blue Sky to be spacious and friendly and full of treats and chin scritches.
It's also great for knitters.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Let's think about loving. Think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25, GGBG Productions.